I wrote a thing! Before we get to the new thing, maybe I should provide a little bit of background. My first book, one second. My first book I co-authored with my friend John Chow. It's called Make Money Online, and it's from John's perspective, outlining key tips and advice for how you can earn full-time income from blogging. That was written in 2010. I followed that up with my second book, one second. My second book, called Beyond the Margins, was completely my project, and it's meant to be as a guide for anybody who's thinking about getting into freelancing. It's from my perspective as a freelance writer, but it's just as applicable to someone that wants to be a website designer, a coder, a photographer, anything like that, talking about some of the trials and tribulations of working from home and developing your own business. And then we arrive at today with Beyond the Baby Babble, my third book. My blog, Beyond the Rhetoric, has always been a reflection of my personal and my professional life, whatever's going on at the time, and head and shoulders above the rest, the most profound life change that I've ever experienced was becoming a dad. The original plan with Beyond the Baby Babble, which I didn't really have the title at the time, was I wanted to document the first year of my life as a work-at-home dad, exploring some of the issues, trials, and tribulations that come along with that. Well, here we are 3 years later, because, life gets in the way. To give you a sense of what you can expect from this book, let me read you the introduction. Introduction, or why I wrote this book. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a couple of pretty big trends emerging in modern society. Maybe we're getting more progressive. A growing number of people are not only working from home, but they're also striking out on their own with their own small businesses. The home office, not just as a place to work sometimes, but as a primary place of business, your own business, is becoming increasingly commonplace. The entrepreneurial spirit is more vibrant than ever before. Number 2, the boundaries between traditional gender roles are blurring. There are many more women achieving great success with their professional careers, just as there are an increasing number of men who choose to stay home full-time to raise their families. Just don't call them Mr. Mom. They hate that. And by they, I mean me. You know what's weird? Despite the relative obviousness of these two trends, we're not seeing much support or much of a community for the intersection between them. Sure, you've got a great deal of online forums dedicated to the work-from-home movement, with all kinds of home-based business opportunities and the like. Sure, you see some prominent sites supporting the work-at-home mom demographic. But what about the work-at-home dad? There's not much. And our experience is unique from these other larger subsets. We can glean some insight from the work-at-home mom movement and the empowerment it provides to the women who choose that path. However, I feel there is still a cultural stigma surrounding the dad who stays at home to raise his children. Because of this, even though the stay-at-home dad demographic is growing, it's not getting represented in any sort of proportionate manner. And even where it is, the discussions lean much more toward the dads who are full-time homemakers. There's no shame in being a stay-at-home dad, to be sure, but it's also quite different from the life of a solo entrepreneur trying to run a successful small business out of a modest home office, all while attempting to balance the needs of a baby who won't stop crying because she needs to be fed, changed, soothed, entertained, tickled, carried, cleaned up, and who knows what else. Hear me, full-time work-at-home dads who need to balance the full-time responsibilities of business ownership with the full-time responsibilities of child-rearing. You are not alone. And for those of you who may be approaching this combination from either end of the field, you're not alone either. Maybe you're the stay-at-home dad who is thinking about starting your own small business. Or maybe, like me, you're the work-from-home professional who decided to start a family. You are not alone. This book is for you. While I'm approaching this from the perspective of the work-at-home dad, I hope that much of what I talk about can provide value to any other tangentially related demographic, just as I can learn from the work-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, startup, entrepreneur, or new parent demographics too. Something about a rising tide in all ships, and promising Leonardo DiCaprio that you'll never ever let go. The precise details are going to vary, of course, as each home and work situation is different for each individual and each family. However, many of the overarching themes and general experiences are going to be really similar, or at the very least, they should be reasonably relatable, provide you with a little insight into what this kind of life really is. In part, this book is a narrative. I'm telling the story of my daughter's first couple of years of life and how having her around impacted both my personal and professional life. This book is also something of a helpful guide, I guess. Maybe you can learn from what I did right and what I did wrong. and maybe you can celebrate my victories and ridicule me for my defeats. Maybe you'll help me grow and mature the public's perception of dads who just happen to work from home in between diaper changes. After all, don't we all want to raise our children in an environment where both the boys and the girls can seize whatever opportunity they want? I'd like to think so. So that was the introduction. Some of the other chapters in the book talk about getting to the mindset of becoming a dad, going back to work, whether kids really are as expensive as they say they are, challenging gender stereotypes both for me and for my daughter, and something about developing mutant superpowers too. Beyond the Baby Babble is available now on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. I'll put the link right there. If you'd like an autographed copy, we can arrange for that too. Just follow the PayPal links that I'll put here. Send me your mailing address and I can get those sent out your way too. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for your support. This really has been a passion project for me for the last 3 years, so I really want to get it into as many hands as possible. Do leave me with any questions or feedback that you have. And I guess I will see you all next week. See you again.